Hi everyone, my name is Iben and welcome to another episode of the Zoo of Ghent. Thank you so much for joining me once again. This episode is going to be slightly different than the other episodes in the series. It's simply because there's a whole bunch of new people who have joined the channel in these past few months, and I want to give you all a chance to get caught up on the series without being forced to watch every single episode that I've put out so far. If you still want to do that, feel free. I think those episodes are really cool to watch, and we're going to be looking at things a lot more in detail in those episodes than that we're going to do right here. This episode is just for you to get caught up on the series if you do not feel like watching all the other episodes. But if you really want to see all of the detail, then go back to those episodes and I can assure you you'll enjoy it just as much as you enjoyed the last Edenya, the Edenya video to be correct. If you've been following on with this series for the past few months, thank you so much for watching this as well. We are going to be seeing a few new things, but nothing really major. Except for maybe a big change in my plan for the zoo, because I've finally bit the bullet on something that I've been wanting to change for quite a while now. So there's still something here for you, even if you've seen all the other episodes before. I can assure you you'll still have fun watching this episode. Well, we've been zooming through the zoo at a quite high speed so far, and we'll dig into everything that you've seen in this short overview a little bit closer. But for now, let's just start with something that a lot of people haven't seen yet, and that is the entrance area of the Zoo of Ghent, because I finally started working on it. It took me way too long, but now we're finally here at the entrance of the Zoo of Ghent. And here you have it, the entrance area that I've been working on these past few weeks. I was inspired by just Goron, who was working on his entrance area of Key Park, and I decided that I just really wanted to do this as well. You can see it, and I'm still working on things, not everything is finished, and I also don't want to be a bit of a perfectionist about this area either. I don't really care that much for city planning that I really want to spend hours and hours and hours working on a detailed road over here, but I still like where I am so far, and I think we'll have a cool entrance area for this zoo. Now, we won't really dive into the entrance building in this episode. I just like to work on these things a little bit more before I want to unveil everything. But one cool feature that you can already see is that the guests in the zoo go into the entrance building from this direction, but actually leave the zoo from that direction. This is a setup created by just Goron. He has it in Key Park as well, and this works about 90% of the time. If you want to do this for yourself, you'll notice that this is not a foolproof method, but again, as you can see it here already. There's someone that goes through here whilst he actually has to go through here. But that doesn't matter that much. It works in, like I said, 90% of the time. Now, let's continue. This is going to be an overview video, so we're going to stay in the overview mode a lot. But so far, there are two major sections of the zoo that are... I gotta correct myself here because we have Edenya now. There are three major areas in the zoo that currently are quite far along in their development. You have this northern area, which is focused a lot on colder climates. You have this Asian area, which is a mix of both Chinese influences and Indian influences. And you have, of course, Edenya, which you saw in the last episode. I'm not going to really go into Edenya in this episode, simply because it's literally the previous episode. If you want to see more about that, just go watch the previous episode. That's fine. But we're gonna start off with this first area of the zoo. A cool area that I've also been working on is this. I want to do something about local fauna and flora as well. So I'm thinking about just making a wilderness area is the wrong word for it, I guess, but it's more of an area where the guests can see how the local flora and fauna lives in Ghent. And at the start, I want to do this kind of small lake. I want to I have to put in a lot more grasses as well. I need to make it a lot more swampier because it's based on some local nature areas here in Ghent, and I think I want to continue it and make a forested path over here with like a squirrel walkthrough. Nothing that is actually like animals that are kept in this zoo, but more of a space that the zoo has reserved for local fauna and flora to thrive in. And I live near an area that is very industrialized, and even there are a lot of local fauna and flora. So I think if a zoo does this, I would assume that a bunch of the local birds would at least come and live here. So that's the plan for now. I'm not entirely sure how I'll continue this, but I already like where it is going. The next area that I want to look at is the northern area of the zoo. And I've decided that I won't really do any kind of grand signs for these kinds of things. I just want to keep it with like a single grand building or a grand piece of architecture that draws you in, with the exception of Edenya, because everyone really wanted that name. But yeah. This northern section has this massive boat that is completely functional. People can walk on top of it, can walk inside it. There are multiple levels. It's really cool, and it draws you in, and it is the big focal point of the northern area. It is my baby. I like having boats in zoos. I think those are really cool. And I think this boat, the Ericsson, is the best one that I've made so far. There are a whole bunch of animals surrounding the boat. So we have gray seals over here that you can watch from an underwater view right there. And a more guest level view right here, which I think is really important. I want people to have as many views as possible, and I really like these different views that you can achieve in zoos. What I also really love is this little straight that goes right down here. And a cool thing about this exhibit is that they are able to close it off. There is a chain right here. There are two hooks right here to be correct, and they can chain this off so they can split up this exhibit when necessary. Moving on, there are other pinniped exhibits right here, and this one is for the Californian sea lion. This as well can be split into two separate exhibits. This one can be blocked off so that you have a separate exhibit when necessary. And I really like, once again, how it looks. I really like this lighthouse over here. It is a really cool touch. And that brings us to the next exhibit, which is the walrus exhibit. There are 3 walrus inside this one. You can see the big one over here. And these are all the female walrus in this zoo. As always, this can also be extended by another exhibit, but that exhibit currently houses the male walrus. There are these 3 lodges over here. Those are lodges you can stay in as a guest, because that's something that I really like about zoos and that I had to introduce myself in this zoo. Now, as I talked about, this entire boat is completely accessible for guests, and you can already see this down below. There are a bunch of guests walking inside of here, and we'll take a look at that quite closely. But before we do that, we can look at the first level of the zoo, of the boat to be exact. And here we have some common aiders who are kept in what would used to be the cargo holding area of the boat, which I again really like. It's a small little thing, but I just love it so much. The boat looks great on the outside, but I do also want to show what it looks like on the inside, and we'll do that right now. There is a door over here, and once we enter, we actually have a view of the sturgeon exhibit, which is actually part of the entire boat. You'll be able to watch it from here all the way to the back. But before we do that, we'll go through this area quite quickly so that you can see the underwater viewing areas of the California sea lion, and that is just really, really cool. The actual walls slope down a little bit, and in the episode of this boat I talk about how I did that. So if you want to figure out how you can do this for yourself, just watch that episode. If we continue down this road, we'll find the same but for walrus, and here we have all walrus swimming as well, which is really, really cool once again. This takes us further down to the male area of the walrus exhibit, and again we have a full-on underwater viewing area for the male walrus, which are currently not outside from the looks of it. Continuing on, we have this little cool safari studio, and we have a sturgeon lab where guests can just go in and interact with a whole bunch of objects like a small touch pool, some equipment, and they can actually watch the sturgeon. Again, if you want to see this as a functioning thing, again, go to the episode about this boat and you'll see how this actually functions with guests in it, which is again pretty cool. Now we'll continue and we'll follow these exit signs and we'll go outside of the boat and go further down the northern area. One of the things that I wanted to introduce in this zoo is multiple places to have lunch and to have food options. So this is one of them, and in this area I didn't want a full-on restaurant. This is basically just your simple hot dog and fries area with a bunch of benches you can sit down in, and you can then from here watch the boat, you can watch the California sea lions. That continues me down to this Kodiak bear exhibit, which is shared with Gray Fox, and again this is an exhibit that I really like. The idea would be that the zoo houses a bunch of bears instead of just one. There are 3 bears in total in this exhibit, and one of them seems to be boxed up right now. And the idea would be is that they would be holding these bears together to teach them how to be bears again. Again, this is something that other zoos have done as well. Probably this is not big enough to really do this realistically, but hey, this is a zoo game. I think it's fine if we have it just like this. Continuing on in the northern area, we have this really cool exhibit of the reindeer and the musk ox, and if you're standing right here you can actually see them on the same eye level as you, which is really cool. This brings us further down and we can see again the animals at multiple levels, including the musk ox right here and the reindeer right there. And one of the things that I love a lot is the fact that you can actually already see part of the Asian area of the zoo right over there. It's so cool, and I like it when zoos don't entirely hide everything, that they give us a way to actually see where we're going to next, and this is the perfect example of that. Now there's only a few things left in the northern area. We have another part of the viewing area for the bears, and we have this large interspecies exhibit with raccoons, with otters, with I believe badgers as well. It's a whole mix. No, it's not badgers, it's skunks. It's a whole mix, but this area isn't entirely finished yet, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. If we then continue on, you'll see the route to Edenya, which again we visited in the last episode. We're not going to go into this area just yet. I'll meet you guys again at the Asian area of the zoo. Let's go to that right now. To say that the Asian area of the zoo is the starting point of the Zoo of Ghent would be the correct thing to say. This was the first thing that I wanted to make, and it is based on several German zoos. There was a German zoo that has recently built an entire complex for rhinos. The name of the zoo is escaping me right now. I don't want to say it's Leipzig because I think the Leipzig part is the tree. This is probably the Zoo of Berlin. They had this big rhino complex, but their key art was different from what it actually became in real life. So I decided to follow the key art and use that instead. And now we have this big, almost Taj Mahal like looking building right here, which I really, really like. The zoo in the concept art also has these big underwater viewing areas for the rhinos, and that was another feature that I really wanted to include. Recently, I've been working on this area again by introducing the grates everywhere, because I do want to make these zoos a little bit more realistic. So I want to think about how water would flow throughout the zoo. So everywhere where the terrain changes and where you have these ramps or these staircases, I'm adding these grates so that if water flows down, it will actually get ported back somewhere else instead of becoming a big pool right here. So yeah, that's something that I'm really proud of. You can see the rhinos from this area as well, and this is of course based on the Leipzig tree, I believe. That also is part of the rhino exhibit in that zoo. If you can hear it, there is also an elephant exhibit right here, and this is the exhibit for the male Asian elephants. I'm trying to not show you too much because there is a major change to the zoo that people who've been watching this series will want to know about at the end of this video, but I want to hide it a little bit more. So this is the bull yard of the elephant area, and if I zoom out a little bit, you'll see how this entire complex works. I really, really like this building. I think it's really cool, and I really like the idea of just having this very themed building, but then having the more structural zoo kind of aesthetic right behind you, just to still ground you a little bit into the fact that this is a zoo and this is not a ginormous theme park. Continuing on, the zoo takes you to a Malayan tapir exhibit, again the exhibit for the male, a small fishing village that you can go through, and if you want to see more about this, go watch the episode. You'll see what's inside of these buildings, and that's really, really nice. But right on cue, this is something that I also really wanted to try in Planet Zoo. Just Goron had done this for Saint Reginald Zoo, and this is inspired by the Zoo of Artis, which has this kind of view in their zoo, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. I love it when these elephants come here and swim around. It's absolutely perfect. I decided to go for a double view here with the tapirs right here. I would assume that this probably doesn't really work for tapirs in real life, but I like this too much to really not do this. And this takes us further down to the little town of Nadyapur, which is inspired by the little Indian village at the Zoo of Plankendal in Belgium. Wow, I went for an English accent right there for the pronunciation of that zoo. Again, if you want to see the interiors of these buildings, go watch the episodes. I don't want to spoil everything just yet. I want to give you an overview, not everything. But this is a part of the zoo that I really, really like, and this is the another view of the elephants, which is I just like the idea of having multiple views of the same exhibit, and as you can see, it's shared by Banteng, and this is a mixed herd of both Bornean elephants and Sumatran elephants. Something that I want to point out is in all of my exhibits that have water, you'll find ducks. This is not an intentional mix. This is a mix that was introduced because that is something that you see in real zoos as well. Local wildlife will always flock to these kinds of areas in zoos, and I really like to do this in Planet Zoo as well. Here's hoping that Planet Zoo 2 introduces some kind of ambient animal system that will do the same. That would be absolutely amazing. Now let's continue on. There is a view of the lions right here, and maybe the lion is doing something cool. Let's take a look. Because we are inside of an actual train. I built this train wagon right here. And we have a view of the lion, who isn't really doing anything special. Maybe he will go and interact with the scratching pole. No, he isn't going to do that. That's a shame. Oh, maybe he actually is. He is. Oh my god, right on cue. There is a hidden scratching pole right here. And now it looks as if he's scratching this telephone pole, which is absolutely brilliant. This is the Asiatic lion. I really like the mod of Gaboy, so I decided to bring it into this zoo as well. So let's continue further on and go to the last remaining section of the zoo that we haven't seen just yet. And that is the Chinese part of this Asian area. And for those who recognize this, this is obviously inspired by the Red Panda area in Blijdorp, which is a zoo that I really, really like. Let's continue on. As you can see, we have the Panda Rock like you have in Blijdorp, which I, again, really, really love. But this time around, I've I've combined two different zoos with each other by including these buildings that are inspired by the Zoo of Ghent, which is also a Dutch zoo, which is holding the giant panda. So yeah, I really love this entire part of the Chinese area. I've put the episode out quite recently, so if you want to watch that as well, just go and watch that in detail. There's a lot of footage of that, but yeah, I'm really happy with the results so far. There is a restaurant right here, and there is going to be a gift shop right over here. This is a more of a sit-down restaurant, which is something that I talked about earlier in the episode. I want to focus on multiple ways of having lunch and dinner in this zoo, and I want to have these full-on restaurants, but also want to have the more smaller sized restaurants that you have right there. Takes us to the next area of this Chinese inspired area, which is a gibbon, is a siamang and orangutan exhibit. And it doesn't really make sense in the Chinese area of this part of the zoo, but honestly the mod came out, the Sumatran orangutan mod came out, and I just couldn't not include it in this zoo. It is so incredibly cool, so I decided to introduce it, and I really love it. I don't really care that much that it doesn't really fit in with the Chinese area of the zoo. It's fine. Sometimes that happens in zoos as well. Sometimes an animal just doesn't really make that much sense, and this is a perfect example of that. Let's take a look at the final viewing area for the Asiatic lion. Once again, we can see one in the background, which is really, really cool. And I'll move right here and we'll visit the actual final part of the zoo that I want to show right now, and that is the talk-in area. Before we do that, I'm going to go through this, and I'll show you yet another viewing area of the elephant exhibit. The elephant exhibit is so big that I really, really want to be able to showcase that in as many different ways as possible. So this is really something that I really, really love. And yeah, I have spent multiple hours watching the elephants from this exhibit, which is really, really nice. Let's turn around and we'll see the giant panda exhibits one more time, and we'll look at the talking exhibit, which is probably going to be a little bit redone in the future. So, and that's for a good reason. But first, before I do that, I'll zoom out just one final time so that you can see everything of the zoo so far. So it's not that huge right now. There is a lot of it packed in a really small space. And for those who have had keen eyes and have been looking at this file for a while, they'll notice something is missing. And you'll see this right here. There used to be a car safari running all the way from here, going at the back and going back here. And honestly, I've been going back and forth on whether I wanted to keep that, but I quickly realized that it just didn't work. The loop was way too small, which made it so that you would basically drive through this in like 15 minutes and nobody would really pay for that. And if I wanted to make the loop bigger, there weren't really any animals on this side that would be interesting to see from your car. The only animals that would really work are the bears, and frankly, you couldn't get a good view of them. So I decided to get rid of the car safari, giving myself a little bit more room to really incorporate a big African area in this zoo. And for the African area, I think I want to split it up in two different parts. I think I want to do one area right here that is entirely about primates, and another area right there that is about the savanna and the more classical African areas in a zoo. So yeah, I really like that. So that's what I've been working on. I hope you enjoyed it so far. I hope this is a good episode for you to get caught up on the entire series. If you want to see more about all these individual areas, there is a playlist on my channel. There aren't that many episodes yet on the Zoo of Ghent, so if you want to catch up, it's not that hard. But this episode will give you a overall idea of where we are right now. Thank you so much for watching. Do everything you want to do. Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, do whatever you want. And if you have ideas for the Zoo of Ghent, if there are things you would like to see in this zoo, do you have ideas for the African area that now has a lot more space than it used to have, just let me know and I'll see if I can incorporate it in the zoo. Thank you so much for watching and see you in the next video. Bye!